Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. In the continuing resolution that was just passed by the House and the Senate, it's off to the President's desk for a signature. There was also an amendment that would have impacted many veterans, and I wanted to just read through it, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this specific amendment that was actually shot down, and just kind of, I don't know, get a pulse on kind of how you think. Because look, there's two different sets of veterans that are impacted by things, right? One is the majority of veterans who are, just civilianized now, and then your veterans who are working for the federal government, right? So it's kind of, there's this weird kind of line in between with everything that's going on. So before we jump into it, though, I want to throw out a special thank you to Dennis Joyner 9724. Dennis Joyner, thank you so much for your super comment, super chat. I truly appreciate your support so very much. Thank you, Dennis Joyner, for your support. All right, so jumping into this, in the continuing resolution that went through the House, approved by the House, moved over to the Senate, approved by the Senate, off to the President's desk, and is expected to be signed. There was a amendment in here, and this amendment was by Senator Tammy Duckworth. And so the Senate passed the continuing resolution, and they also voted on this amendment that was offered by Senator Tammy Duckworth. This amendment would have reinstated all veterans, all, not most, not some, not half, all veterans fired from the federal government by the Trump administration. So all these layoffs that are going on, obviously there's going to be veterans that are impacted. Veterans tend to gravitate, back into the government a little more so than some, mostly because, one, you kind of understand it, and two, you can maybe utilize your time in the military towards retirement. So in any case, this bill or this amendment would have reinstated all veterans fired from the federal government by the Trump administration. Now, my question is, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think would you have voted yes on that bill? Every single veteran that was fired now has to be rehired, period, end of story. So it says thousands of federal workers, including thousands of veterans, have been fired as part of Trump's sweeping efforts to slash the government. Duckworth's amendment failed entirely along party lines, with all 47 Democrats supporting and all 53 Republicans opposing. So again, my question to you is, would you have supported that from a workforce perspective as well? So put on your, I am the boss of, whatever, however many thousands, or if you want to just say the entire VA, right? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to hire back everybody, or do you not, right? So, and not everybody, the veterans, right? So veterans basically getting rehired onto their federal jobs. What are your thoughts on that? Throw that in the comments for me. I really appreciate it. And I'm just going to go through a few more things on this continuing resolution that went through. And this is, again, on military.com here, and I'm sharing it with you here. This came out when March 14th of 2025. All right, so troop pay is one of the big things that was in there. So remember that there was the increases in enlisted pay, and that is now protected, and money to cover upcoming pay raises for junior enlisted service members will be secure after Congress approved an extension of the government funding through September. So this kind of stopgap funding is essentially for 6 months. So the Senate voted 54-46 to approve a stopgap spending bill known as a continuing resolution on Friday evening, just hours before potential government shutdown would begin. The House approved the continuing resolution earlier this week, and it now awaits the president's signature, and that is expected to happen. Government funding was set to expire at the end of the day, Friday, meaning the government would have shut down at 12:01 Saturday without congressional action. The bill was written entirely by House Republicans, and Trump backed the continuing resolution as a way to enable his administration to continue its unilateral cuts to the federal government. There's a quotation here, and it says, "Great things are coming for America, and I am asking you all to give us a few months to get us through to September so we can continue to put our country's financial house in order." Trump posted on social media last weekend urging Republicans to support the bill. The continuing resolution's passage was in doubt for most of the week because at least 8 Democrats needed to join with Republicans to vote to advance it in the Senate. A procedural vote called a cloture motion requires 60 votes. Republicans hold 53 seats, and Senator Rand Paul came out in opposition to the bill early in the week. But on Thursday evening, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced he would back the cloture motion, arguing that a shutdown would allow Trump to cause more harm than a continuing resolution would. Schumer's decision gave a strong signal the continuing resolution would pass, and ultimately 9 other Democrats joined Schumer to advance the bill in the procedural vote. Now, there's a quotation here, and it says, "While the continuing resolution bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse." Schumer, who voted against final passage even though he supported the cloture, said on the Senate floor Thursday night. In a government shutdown, obviously troops would continue working without pay unless there's some sort of special provision. And, the other thing with continuing resolutions is typically it's just keeping your last year's budget, and you just got to kind of operate under that. Now, they can carve out and throw in some additional funds for, special situations, and that's what we're seeing here is some additional funding. The Pentagon absolutely hates those continuing resolutions because it forces the military to operate under those previous year budgets, and it makes it difficult. Now, in this continuing resolution, Congress sought to mitigate some of the fallout for the military by adding $6 billion above the last year's budget for the Pentagon. So essentially, a lot of that money is kind of already going to get absorbed, right? With the fact that the pay raises were already approved, the Pentagon would have had to do some shell games and just take money from other kind of line items and move it over to cover that. So they definitely needed additional funding. So it says here, Congress added funding for military personnel accounts for a 10% raise that junior enlisted service members are slated to get in April. The junior enlisted pay raise would have taken effect without extra funding being approved in the continuing resolution because Congress authorized the raise in the defense policy bill passed in December. But the military would have had to raid other personnel funds, such as for retention bonuses, in order to cover the increased paychecks. Despite the continuing resolution, including some extra Pentagon funding, top officers testified to Congress this week that it would still have harmful effects on the military. The continuing resolution also included an extra $6 billion for the Department of Veterans Affairs to make up for a shortfall in the Toxic Exposures Fund that was first identified back in 2024, around a year ago, is when this was kind of popping up. In addition to passing the continuing resolution, the Senate also voted on that amendment by Duckworth and to reinstate all veteran federal employees that were fired, reinstate their positions. But again, that was shot down in votes and failed by a 47 to 53 vote. With that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you so very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.